What up, y'all? It's Monday, October 29th, and I just wanted to do a quick follow-up on the caravan. Yeah, I'm wearing my Make America Great Again hat. I hate this design of hat, but I'm going to support the whole movement because I do want to make America great again. America's already great, yeah, but in a lot of ways the Democrats have destroyed that in some of the other states. But anyway, this whole video topic is about cultural appropriation and about how the leftists are so hypocritical, okay? If I were to put on, let's say, a sombrero, I would be culturally appropriating the Mexican culture. If I were to put on a dashiki, I would be culturally appropriating African culture. If I were to, eat with chopsticks, I'm culturally appropriating the Chinese and Asian cultures. I mean, they're about cultural appropriation, but then they fail to see how illegal immigration is cultural appropriation. They're trying to come to somebody's country and to live as if they belong there without legally going through the process of immigrating into that country following the laws. That's cultural appropriation because you're stealing your citizenship and the culture by just trying to slip in. And so the other thing is we had that Pittsburgh shooting. They're all about laws. They want more laws because laws change behaviors, right? They want laws to prevent people from getting guns they shouldn't get. Well, first of all, there's a law against committing murder, and that obviously hasn't worked because people still commit murder, regardless of whether they use a gun, a knife, a car, a bomb, a baseball bat, a spoon, clothes iron, fireplace poker. I mean, you cannot legislate morality in the hearts of people. If you don't have morals, doesn't matter what kind of laws are out there. Well, look, we have laws against immigrating to our country illegally without documentation and going through the process and the system and without jumping in line in front of all those people who are patiently waiting and obediently following our laws. So Democrats, leftists are such BS. Oh my God, I can't believe people still support that. And I can't believe they'll do whatever to fight and defend that. Their pride won't let them admit that they've made a mistake by being a Democrat and by being a Marxist, leftist, socialist, communist type person. They don't admit the failures of communism all over. In real time, today, we're seeing the failures. It's not like we have to go back in history and look at all the failures. You can see the Venezuelans. You can see the Honduras situation, because that's the whole reason why the Hondurans are leaving in the first place. They had Marxists come in and try to institute the same kind of government they had in Cuba under Castro and in Venezuela under Chavez. And look at what a complete failure mess it is. All the criminals and everything that are coming up and the starving people and the suffering people, they have to leave that country. And yet we have people in this country, which is so great and so free, and they still push that garbage that there's democratic socialism. There's no such thing as democratic socialism. Yeah, democratic socialism is the fact that you voted for socialism. How stupid are you? You vote for socialism, as opposed to having socialism forced upon you. That's the only difference between democratic socialism and normal socialism. It's still socialism. It's just how you got there, which is absolutely retarded. But anyway, so here are all the issues that, the more I'm learning about this immigrant crisis, I could actually care less if our military accidentally shoots somebody, because those people are criminal. There are a lot of criminals in that group. And we're starting to see it in the interviews that are going on when the reporters are embedding themselves in the caravan and asking questions. They had this guy, Jose, who admitted to being a felon who was deported for attempted murder. They had these guys they were interviewing. The one guy goes, "Oh, yeah, there are criminals here. Yeah, they're criminals, but they're not that many. And that's already two that they just randomly grabbed out of the group, out of the thousands that they interviewed. And you can see that they're criminals. There are a lot of criminals there. So Trump is absolutely right. Are you willing to risk having criminals enter our country just because you hate Donald Trump? If that's the case, you really are stupid. And you deserve to be a Democrat, and you deserve the blue flush that's going to happen this next election, because you are just so out of touch with reality, and that you just really want your ideology without really thinking through, what is your ideology? Yeah, it sounds nice, immigration, these migrants that we need to be watching over, and I'm all for it. If you're good people, if you're good industrial people, come into our country, do it legally, and by all means, we'll welcome you with open arms. In fact, Mexico, I think, is starting to see our plight here in the United States, because Mexico had a lot of socialists in it too that were allowing these migrants to come in because they thought they would just pass right through. But a lot of them are getting stuck in Tijuana. They're getting stuck in a lot of the places in Mexico, and they're overburdening the system there. And the people are losing their jobs to the immigrants, and it's making everybody in Mexico upset. So the Mexicans are starting to see what the United States citizens are seeing when illegal immigrants come into their country and start abusing their system and not following their laws, what a mess it causes. And so I think a lot of Mexicans are going to start immigrating legally. It's going to teach them a big, valuable lesson that this is what happens when you come in and you destroy a country by not following its laws. Unfortunately, the ones who are here already, and they will not leave. But here are some of the issues other than criminal and terrorist potentials that come in with the migrants. You have the potential for disease. The health standards in other countries, especially a country where people don't have good standards of living, they're fleeing it because they're not being taken care of. They likely have lots of diseases, lots of illnesses. And they're going to be migrating up here, and they're going to come into our country and start spreading those same diseases. They have this spinal disease that's going on where kids are dying, people are dying of this rare spinal disease, and they don't even know what caused it, where it came from, and they have no cure for it. Well, I can bet you that it's coming from immigration, because a lot of our diseases, our problems have come from globalization, not just immigration, globalization altogether, because you have the import-export process where we're trading with countries that really don't have the same health standards or the same health guidelines and quality standards that we have. China, for example, like you import dog food from China and your dog gets poisoned because China doesn't have the same food quality standards for pets as America would. So all these globalist, leftist, communist, Democrat, or not Democrat, it can be Republicans too. There are some Republicans who are leftist globalists too. They're Trotskyites. So Trotskyites versus the Karl Marx, Joseph Stalin types. They all create problems for our country. And so we need to really think about what's going on here. I mean, look at all the problems that are going in Mexico. Even in the caravan. The caravan, there are good people in there, I'm sure. And they're mixed in with a lot of the riffraff. And unfortunately, they're going to suffer for it. And it's to the point where there was already a guy who they lynch mobbed him because he tried to take a little girl and kidnap her and rape her. And so they beat down on him within the migrant caravan, or invasion, I should say. I should stop using that caravan term, because the reality of it is they're just trying to invade. They're an invading force, an invading army. And so they should be met with our military, who should treat them very, very roughly. The other thing was there was they had a little bit of a rebellion against the Mexican military in Oaxaca, and there was a 26-year-old who got killed in the conflict. There are all these problems. These people are showing that they're not just about work. And the president of Mexico even offered them, you know, benefits and a permanent home for them to stay in Mexico, which is way better than Honduras. And they refused it. So they're not here about a better life. There are a few that have been conned into it, that America will take them in. But good majority of them just want to get in and take advantage of anything, any situation that they can get into. Because they're thieves, they're criminals, they're murderers. They take advantage. And this is why their country is falling apart. They like to blame other people for why their country is a mess. But the reality of it is they who are at fault. It is they who cast the vote, the ballot, on election day. It is they who do not follow up to make sure that the ballots are being counted properly. It is they who, even if the person gets elected and turns out to be bad, it is they who do not overthrow them and get them out. They accept the oppression that they receive from their country. Same thing in China. How big is the Chinese Communist Party? It's probably 1%, if that, of the entire population of China. And yet, the people of China are ruled under iron fist. Because the people don't stand up. If the people would all stand up together, I mean, look at this. Look at how this caravan can just break through borders. When the people get together for the right cause, they can really affect change. If you can break through a border so easily against a developed country like Mexico, who has a military guarding the border, and there's no problem, or in Guatemala, I mean, why can't you do that at home? Why can't you organize at home to change your own government? I mean, look at what we did here in the United States. A lot of us were destitute. We were hopeless. We felt like, our vote doesn't matter. We had, the globalist Barack Obama and George W. Bush, who were just giving our country away to every other country around the world. And we felt like, America didn't matter anymore. But we took that last chance to vote for Donald Trump. And even though the odds were against us and against him, and even though the media kept telling us, oh, she's got an overwhelming lead over Donald Trump. And look, everybody's wearing these hats now. People have the power, always, even in a dictatorship. You have the power. Brazil just found that out by electing their new president, who really likes dictatorship, but for the election purposes, he clung to his Catholic faith and spoke of freedom and democracy. But in other talks, he's talked about dictatorship. So we'll have to see. The Brazil election absolutely reminds me of the Argentinian history when their first inflation in the 70s kicked in, and their currency went in the toilet, and they had this guy who looked like the national hero. He had sideburns and everything, and he claimed hope and change, kind of like the Barack Obama campaign slogan. And he constantly was pounding his fist when he was campaigning that he will not betray the people of Argentina. He will not betray them. He will not betray them. He will not betray them. And then what happened? As soon as he got elected, he shaved his sideburns and he sold out Argentina to the globe, to the rest of the world, where all of their food importation and goods and services came from outside Argentina. And then they inflated the currency to kingdom come, to valuelessness, where now you had no money to import the food, and you had no self-sufficiency to grow food within your country's borders. So people were starving to death, and they had their pot revolution, where the people were going in the streets with their pots and pans and pounding them, and overthrowing the government. And then they did it again with Christina Kirchner, who they elected as their first woman president. And what did she do? Well, not their first woman president, their first woman president in a long time. And what did she do? Maybe she was the first woman president. I need to go check that up. Don't quote me on that. But what did she do? She did the exact same thing. She betrayed Argentina. So this is the thing we have to deal with the Democrats. You have an election coming up, November 6th. So you need to really make a good decision here. Do you want the blues? Do you want to be feeling the blues in America? Huh? Or are you going to go vote red wave, red tsunami? Do not sit out this election. And if you're a Republican and you sit it out, you're voting for a Democrat. And if you're a conservative Republican who hates the way the Democrats run things and you sit it out, just think about that. You voted for a Democrat. You cannot sit this out. Lots of people do not have the right to vote around the world, and you have that right. Exercise it and check up on it, because there's a lot of voter fraud that's going on. They've been finding out in Texas, in Montgomery, Texas, when people are casting the vote for Ted Cruz, the machine is flipping it and giving it to Beto. That is big time fraud that we got to deal with. So make sure you hold the polling places accountable. Make sure you hold your elected officials accountable. And if they're artificially elected, we really need to hold them accountable. We need to put them in prison. And in some cases, those people, I personally feel that is an executable, like you can execute someone for voter fraud in that case, because that becomes national security. If we elect, we try to elect a conservative, traditional American patriot, and somehow a globalist, anti-American communist gets elected, that can be a national security issue because they're anti-American. Their policies are anti-prosperity. They're about giving things away to the community, to the commune, which is their globe. So you give it away to the world. So all your prosperity gets given away. When you give away all your prosperity, you have poverty and suffering. That's a national security issue. If people are starving to death, that's a life and death issue. That becomes national security. And that's how I would justify voter fraud as a threat to national security, as a form of treason, and actually should be an executable crime. So that when people, and I don't mean executable meaning like they can perform that crime. I mean executable meaning if they perform that crime, they can be executed. So that's something that we need to look into. And the Catholic Church, here's another issue. I just got out of church on Sunday, and the deacon started to make a really good homily. And what did he do? Then he flipped it to the caravan. He started out saying that there's a soccer game, and Jesus is at the soccer game. And it's the Protestants versus the Catholics. And the Protestants score, and Jesus stands up and cheers. And they're like, oh, see, Jesus is Protestant. And then the Catholics score, and Jesus stands up and cheers, and the Catholics go, oh, see, Jesus is Catholic. And at the end of the game, which ends up being a draw, a tie, they go up to Jesus and they go, okay, so who were you rooting for? And Jesus says, I was rooting for an excellent game. In other words, Jesus wasn't partisan. He wasn't Catholic. He wasn't Protestant. He was about playing the game well and achieving good feats. That part of the homily from the deacon was excellent. That is the way I believe Jesus is. I believe Jesus uses anyone he wants. It doesn't necessarily have to be a Christian. It can be anyone. God uses anyone he wants to accomplish his will. And it is not your place to say otherwise. So he could be using Trump right now, and we don't know. Yeah, Trump was an adulterer. A womanizer. But he seems to be a good man. God could be using him. Cyrus the Great was another one, a Persian, non-Christian. God used him to benefit his people and to further his will on earth. So who knows? Who knows what's going on? But that was, to me, the best point of his homily. And then he flipped it and he goes, so don't be partisan about the immigrants. You need to look at the immigrants and how they're suffering and be in their shoes. Yeah, that's partially true. But the Catholic Church stops there because the Catholic Church likes the immigrants coming in because they tend to come from Catholic countries. And they come into this country and they keep the Catholic Church alive in the United States, where the bishops have failed the people and allowed priests to molest children. The Catholics in the other countries come from oppressed countries, so they're used to that kind of oppression and molestation. The United States, we're not used to that, so we revolt. We rebel. And so the Catholic Church has been losing congregation members in droves because the priests have abandoned the people and their duty and their oath to God. And I'm not saying all priests, but I'm saying a good many of them are not following what Jesus taught anymore. And they've tried to Protestantize the church. And so the church has now been possessed of the devil. And the devil has gotten into many of the priests, and the priests are doing a lot of evil things. So the church has lost a lot of congregation members. First of all, I'm Catholic. I will never leave the Catholic Church because Jesus founded it. And Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. And if he found this church, to whom shall we go? Where else can we find the words of everlasting life? The Protestants don't follow what Jesus taught. They claim to, but their churches are not founded by Jesus. They're not directly founded by Jesus. Every Protestant church out there is founded by a man. And so they follow the precepts of man. They do not follow what Jesus taught. And not every Catholic follows what Jesus taught either. But that doesn't mean you leave the church that Jesus founded just because the people don't follow it. So you do not leave the Catholic Church just because the priests may be Judas. There may be priests in the order of Judas Iscariot, who betrayed our Lord and Savior and committed suicide after our Lord was crucified. First of all, your life is not your own. It belongs to God. Only the devil takes what is not his own. So suicide is of the devil. It's stealing the life that does not belong to you. It belongs to God. And this is why I'm so adamant against suicide. And there are a lot of Catholics within the church that go, hey, suicide, you got to understand. You got to put yourself in the shoes of that person who committed suicide. No. That's the same thing as the deacon saying you got to put yourself in the shoes of the migrants who are committing suicide in their own countries by allowing bad people to run it. And then they leave the country and go to another country where it's better, and they kill that country too because they bring the principles and problems that they have, or the lack of principles and problems that they have that cause their country to become what Trump has called a shithole country, to come to this new country and turn that also into a shithole. No, you have to put yourself in the shoes of everyone. Put yourself in the shoes of the migrants. Yeah, that's okay. Some of them are good. Some of them are suffering, and we need to help them somehow. We need to help them to see that their power is greater than what they understand. But also put yourself in the shoes of the Americans who are now being forced to take care of people that didn't do what they were supposed to do in their country. Even though we're doing what we're supposed to do, trying to pay our taxes, trying to earn a living, trying to support our families and follow the laws, and somebody's coming in and breaking the laws of our country so that now we're responsible for their irresponsibility. No. Catholic Church needs to correct itself now. Jesus even said, you need to follow the laws of the country you're in, because God anoints and puts the people in power who are in power. He makes kings and he destroys kings. So it's up to God to make and destroy it. And if the people don't support the king, then they need to remove the king civilly, just by their forces. V for Vendetta, a great movie. It shows in the end how the people can peacefully overrun a tyrant government that they don't support. And that is the principles by which we make America great again. We support a good president who's trying to make our country follow the rules and make the rest of the world follow the rules, so there's order and there's law. There's no longer chaos. The New World Order wants chaos first, And then they rewrite all the laws and create structure and austerity that's so strong that you're now under a dictatorial thumb. But Trump is doing it the opposite way. We already had good laws. We already have good laws. We don't need to create more. We just need to enforce them and follow them the way they are. And the leftists always want to create more laws, more laws, more laws. It's already illegal to come to this country without going through the process. It's already illegal to commit murder, so we don't need to write more laws against guns. All right, so this rant got a little too long, but it is all about cultural appropriation and theft. If you are against cultural appropriation, you should be against illegal immigration. If you want people to appropriate culture properly as their own, then they need to go through the process. If they go through the process, it's not cultural appropriation. When you get your citizenship, you are a citizen. It's your culture by birthright now. Got it? Good. If you like this, subscribe, follow, like the post, and please share so that others can hear the message if they're willing to listen all the way through. I know it's 26, 27 minutes, but I appreciate those who have listened, and I hope that my ideas help you in your journey as an American or in your journey to become American. And in your journey, if you're in another country and you've got oppression, hopefully this helps you with ideas on how to organize your people to overthrow your communist or controlling dictatorial government if it's not benefiting you. And hopefully making it a better place so that everyone follows the rules and has a better life so that they don't have to leave their country to come to a new one. God love you. Take care.